Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
All right, we're back. Sorry about that, folks. A little bit of technical gremlins dealing with the start of the weekend, much like the weather gremlins brutalized our own long weekend coming up. There's lots for us to get to, though. Couple big local things. Congratulations to the Niverville Nighthawks. The WST bump stays undefeated. The fellas, after joining us just before the playoffs, completed the job. Amazing weekend, though. Like, they were down 3-0 in the semifinal. The Toronto Patriots came back, scored 2 late in the third to turn a 3-2 deficit into a 4-3 win, and then completed the job, defeating the host Summerside PEI squad yesterday to win the Centennial Cup and become National Junior A champion. So congratulations to Niverville, and congrats to the Sea Bears for winning their home opener. Unfortunately, they blew a big fourth quarter lead earlier today against Scarborough, losing their first game of the season. A tight one in target time to the Scarborough squad. But as I mentioned right off the bat, Habs are moving on to the playoffs and to the third round against the Carolina Hurricanes. And we'll chop that up as well as some other big stories. Just breaking as we started the show today, Adam Foote out as coach of the Vancouver Canucks. Speculation that Manny Malhotra will get the bump up to be the bench boss in Vancouver now that Hank and Danny Sedin are co-presidents and running the show along with Ryan Johnson. And I know Tico Napoli dropped this in a little earlier, a super chat, but huge congratulations to Tyrell Bauer of the Manitoba Moose, who is named the AHL's Yannick Dupré Man of the Year today. Incredibly deserved by Ty, who does so much in the community and is such an incredible teammate on the Manitoba Moose. And Tico Napoli has put in, although disappointed in my second place finish, LOL, congrats to the Man of the Year, Ty Bauer, more than just a fighter and no goon, a clean player, great character, deserving of an NHL shot. Go, Bauer, go. So big news for Bauer and the organization. Very proud of what he's done as the Man of the Year. Listen, we're going to get right into it. Mike McIntyre is going to join us in a few minutes. We'll get CTO Michael Remis here and see if the show is actually operating okay. But I will thank all of our sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet. 2 weeks left before the big World Cup contest ends. Make sure to get over to the promotions tab if you haven't already joined in on that. And maybe you'll be treated like a king in Vancouver to see Canada play in a few weeks. Also want to thank Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Clean Line, Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, the Tri-Hospital Lottery. Get your tickets now at trihospitaldream.com. Manitoba Battery, Aikens Lake, Breezy Bend, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, Travel Manitoba, the Gold Eyes home opener tonight, 6:30. Assiniboia Downs, we're back at it tonight as well. We'll get our picks a little later on. Rollies Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, and we will get to a Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Fighting the battle with the Gremlins, Michael Remis pops in. How are we doing? Are we back? We're back rolling smoothly as normal?
Yeah, everyone's still here. Thanks for your patience and letting me know that wasn't coming through, and we're here. Yeah, what a long weekend it was. Spent a lot of it inside us. Cleaned up my house, cleaned my car. Disappointing, can't go outside, or you could, but not what we're used to in terms of long weekends. My son's been way into hockey. We did spend it with no Jets in the playoffs. We went through all the highlights from the 2018 playoffs and last year's playoffs. So, but I have been enjoying this year with Montreal. They're all ready to party on Saturday, and they had the big loss, but the big Game 7 win. They partied so hard, us registering on the Richter scale in Montreal. 0.5 seismic activity on the Richter scale measured yesterday after Montreal's win. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say about that? We'll kind of dive into it much more But yeah, 0.5 on the Richter scale. I can't believe it. And just absolute, you're gutted for the people of Buffalo. I mean, and frankly, that team too. I mean, they have been afterthoughts, also rans in this league for a decade and a half, and made it into the playoffs, had that great run, and it really did feel like in the second half of that game that it was inevitable that they were going to just get that goal, and it never came. And then, of course, it was Alex Newhook as the hero in overtime. But Remo, how about the Niverville Nighthawks? Like, what a season that squad had. They had a huge opportunity to go in and try and, create some new history for a new franchise. They won their first Turnbull Cup and then got the job done last night, 4-1, the only undefeated team at the tournament, and they win Manitoba's first Centennial Cup since 2015. And you have to go a long way back before 2015 to get another Manitoba winner. That, of course, was that Stack Portage Terriers team. But our pals Dwight and Adam Vigfusson, who joined us twice on the program, finished the job. And Viggy going to move on to York University. What a way to finish off that incredible junior career.
Yeah, pretty amazing. They're having a celebration tonight, Huss, in Niverville at their with their arena, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And it was fun to follow. They had a great time in PEI, but won all their games and winning the Centennial Cup. So it was nice to see that across social media on Sunday night, Huss, as we thought it was going to be on TSN, but they made us shell out the extra dollars there for TSN Plus. But the games were all available streaming, so congratulations to them. 4 years has been around, and now not just Turnbull Cup champions, Centennial Cup champions. So good for them.
National champs. And listen, Niverville, is a small but really growing community. And the addition of the rink and then the franchise, I think, has really sort of jump-started hockey in that area. Not that there weren't a lot of people playing hockey before, but they've been really well supported. And now, have obviously the biggest sports result in the history of the town. And I know the guys at the MJHL are just over the moon. Sport Manitoba, everybody. It's just great to see. Great to see something like this happen. So, congratulations to the Nighthawks. And I know that there will be. I'm sure there was plenty of revelry out in PEI before the team came home, and tonight they will be celebrated. So if you're in the area, you're a fan of the team and the MJ, 6 to 10 tonight down at the Niverville Arena will be a big celebration for the 2026 national champion Niverville Nighthawks. Remo. We were just mentioning the aftermath of this, series between Buffalo and Montreal, which was so much fun. Montreal moves on to see another day. Buffalo's season is over. And now the big questions about Buffalo come out. I mean, Alex Tuch kept off the scoreboard for the series. Kind of incredible that Buffalo made it to overtime of Game 7, getting absolutely nothing from their top line and their top players in Tuch and Tage Thompson. The big question was, did Alex Tuch's free agent value as the clear-cut number one guy on the UFA board take a big hit because of the way his season ended? I tend to think that we'll get to July 1 and there will still be a few teams that'll be throwing out big money if it's not the Buffalo Sabres to keep him there. But I will say this. I think our old pal Stan and his performance in this round probably cost him some money as well. He had a glorious opportunity to play a regular role in a team in the playoffs, didn't end up holding on to the job, and it was both Stan and Shen in the press box, along with Tanner Pearson that came over from Winnipeg as the Sabres had their season ended.
Yeah, Alex Tuch, his performance Was that the difference between them winning or losing in Game 7? 0 points from a guy who's on your top line, -9, plus-minus, and Tage Thompson wasn't at his best either. And a lot of people pointing to, I'm seeing that toe drag a lot on the 2-on-1 with Zach Benson in overtime. As far as the goal goes, I thought Rasmus Dahlin was being too cute at the blue line, which led to the rush by Newhook. But he was their top guy who was their top guy. From a local perspective, we were focused here on Stanley and Shen, the big trade deadline acquisitions. Pearson, he was a 7th-round pick. I think he was insurance. But Stan, they thought he was going to be their tough guy in the lineup. And for Game 6 and 7, those guys were not played. And, they scratched him in favor of a player who only played, 3.5 minutes in the game. And ultimately, I think the game, it was too fast for those guys, and they couldn't trust them. And we also wondered, at the time of the trade, if those guys were even better than what they already had. And when it came to the biggest games of the year, Lindy Ruff decided he was going with Metsa, who played for 3 minutes and 25 seconds yesterday. Did score a garbage time goal at the end of game 6 once it was already decided. But certainly interesting from locally seeing those guys not able to get into the lineup in crunch time.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Looking now at what came back, the 2nd rounder and the 4th rounder, and Isaac Rosén.
Incredible.
Listen, it is nice. Now, Stanley did have a really strong season, and he had those goal numbers. And listen, if there was ever a time to move Logan Stanley, that was it. And, obviously they got the deal that they were able to get, and probably really fortunate that Colton Parayko did not waive his no move to go to Buffalo. How are things different if Colton Parayko is in that lineup? First of all, I think that blue line, at least the top 4, would have been even better. And, maybe that helps them get a bit of a different result. But again, maybe the bottom line from the Jets was I think they did well by the trade. Stanley was the one player that I thought would play. I was still stunned that Luke Schenn got in. And to get in over Stanley blew my mind. Say what you will about Stan. I'm putting Stan in ahead of Luke Schenn 10 out of 10 times without hesitation. But again, Lindy Ruff thought he had better guys than both of those guys and ended up doing it. So, I know we'd thought a lot about Stan, if he'd been able to build off what he did in Winnipeg with a strong playoff run, what that might do for him at free agent time. I think we might need to reset some of those expectations, Remo. And the minute we're saying this, it didn't take long for some people in the chat saying, bring him home. Tyson D not keeping Stan in cost them the series. I don't know about that. And then re-sign the Stanimal as well. But one thing I can tell you on Winnipeg Sports Talk, if we mention Logan Stanley, people will get fired up in the chat with many differing viewpoints on the player.
With the Jets not in the playoffs, we can just bring up any former player and it gets views. Check out our Instagram from this weekend. We did a video about Line A, a video about Ehlers, maybe our most successful videos that we posted on our Instagram Reels over the last 2 months. So the topic of, players no longer here, perks a lot of people's ears up and gets engagement, that's for sure. And for Logan Stanley, he had an amazing part of the season here in 59 games, 9 goals, 12 assists, 21 points. But he was clearly on a shooting bender, and he fell back down to earth, 0 goals in 17 games with Buffalo, 5 assists. I'm very curious what his next contract will be. I don't think it's going to be in Winnipeg. I don't think that there's room for him, us here on the third line, although I'm looking at the defensive pairings as per daily face-off right now, and they've got Ville Heinola on there. He's not going to be back. And Elias Salomonson's having surgery. So maybe there is a perfectly good spot for Logan Stanley on the third line. And there is that familiarity there. But We'll have to see what the contract offers are.
Well, and the question is what you're familiar with. I mean, most fans are quite familiar with. Now, the team maybe seemed to have more time for Stan at times during his tenure here than the fan base did, or sorry, than the coaching staff did, or vice versa. You know what I'm saying? It's probably time for him, and I would say from his perspective too. You know, if he's got some options, going somewhere with a fresh start, a place with a clear path to playing, without a lot of the baggage from being a first-round pick and being here for as long as time. So, you know, he'll be one of the interesting names that we'll be paying attention to when we get closer to the July 1st. And I would be surprised if there's a job for Luke Schenn, but if a guy still really wants to play, and I mean, maybe there's a league minimum deal as a depth player to have him around, work with some younger players. I guess we will see. And I guess that pretty much goes for Tanner Pearson as well.
The thing about Luke Schenn, people seem to love him. Huss, Pierre LeBrun tweeting before the game that he was put in, great to see Luke Schenn in the lineup. He's going to be giving them so much veteran experience.
The media love him. That's for sure. I mean, he's obviously been...
Yeah, Bruce Boudreau's on NHL Network after the game saying loved that Luke Schenn got in. So, yes, people love him around the league. And I remember when he was in Toronto and was a healthy scratch, and some of the Toronto media were all up in arms. How do you scratch this guy? He's coming home to Toronto where he started his career. I think a lot of them hadn't really watched him play this year, Huss. And I am curious, you know, hopefully for him he can continue if he chooses to in the league, but we'll see. Those are two names we'll be eyeing, I think, in this offseason. Is for the Jets. As you mentioned, they got Isaac Rosen. They got a 7th rounder, a second, and a 4th from Buffalo. And the two deals.
Oh, we can't forget that 7th rounder for Pearson. That's right.
I mean, nice work there done by Chevy for players who weren't sure. And I will say they tried to get Colton Parayko. I have a hard time understanding why teams keep trying to acquire players with no trade clauses. Why? I think maybe it speaks to the lack of names on the market or lack of creativity, or why teams try to openly negotiate with their own players that have no trade clauses, like St. Louis did before with Torrey Krug, and he nixed the whole deal. I think it puts the players in a bad position when it's the GMs handing out these no trade clauses.
Yeah, fair, but I think in a scenario like this where St. Louis is out of the playoffs again, and I mean, obviously they made it last year but lost in the first round, but St. Louis is out of the playoffs. You got a Buffalo team that is going to the playoffs and seeming like they've got a pretty bright future. I think the thought is that in most cases, the player would jump at the opportunity to go there. Now, I mean, I think a lot of the no trades is just protection, so that you don't get traded to somewhere that you really don't want to go. But, I mean, who knows? We might see that at some point with, the Winnipeg Jets. A lot of these guys have no trades. If they're moved, I mean, they're going to be traded somewhere, but it really gives the player the control as to where they're going to go. But, listen, the fact that trade didn't happen for Buffalo to St. Louis probably sucked for them, ended up being good for Winnipeg, in that they ended up getting the opportunity to still trade Stan. We'll talk about this with Mike coming up in just a few minutes. Quick Bomber note, and we'll dive into this a bit more later on. Interesting signing today by the Blue Bombers. 3 Nationals, defensive tackle Caleb Mackey McLeod out of the U of M, national receiver Colby Herford from U of A, and national receiver and former Bison quarterback Jackson Tuchinski, who was in camp with the Edmonton Elks, released and seemingly immediately signed for the Bombers. And they know all about what an athlete Jackson Tuchinski is. Of course, he was in the flag football camp with Paul Lapalisse and could potentially be part of Lapo's team moving forward into the next couple of years in the Olympic Games in 2028. Listen, Mike McIntyre is going to join us coming up right away. Folks, it is time to get your tickets right now for the Tri-Hospital Dream Lottery. You've got until Friday night at midnight to get your tickets to make sure that you're in for the spring bonus. Now, it doesn't entirely feel like spring right now, but you'll feel pretty darn good when you've got a choice of either a Subaru Crosstrek Hybrid and a paddle sports package, or that was the first one, excuse me. The summer bonus is even bigger. A Land Rover Discovery Sport Landmark or a Mercedes-Benz GLC 300, a $50,000 travel voucher plus $20,000 cash, or $62,500 cash. There's also going to be 10 summer bonus winners of a $2,000 shopping spree or $1,500 cash. You'll be in for the incredible grand prizes. $1.7 million dream home packages. There's 6 of them, or $1.35 million cash, and another $250,000 plus of early bird prizes. So get your tickets today at tryhospitaldream.com. It is all in support of the Health Sciences Center, the St. Boniface Hospital, and the HSC Children's Hospital. You can pick up tickets in person at London Drugs or Red River Co-op locations, but the website is tryhospitaldream.com. And remember to get your tickets before Friday at midnight to ensure that you're in for the summer bonus and all the early bird prizes. Our friends at Clean Line are ready for spring and summer. Folks, if you have plumbing needs, why don't you go to the most dependable and reliable plumbing service in town and the official plumbing service of your Winnipeg Jets, Clean Line. Check them out online at cleanline.ca for more information on Winnipeg's most trusted plumbers with over 40 years of fast responses, lasting results, and 24/7 emergency services across all of Winnipeg. Mark the number down, 204-500-2001. That's the number, 24/7, 365. Clean Line's got your back. You can also find out more on their plumbing, heating, and electrical services, both residential and commercial, online at cleanline.ca. Well, that long weekend, if you want to call it that, is behind us. Hopefully much brighter and sunnier days are to come. You're going to get those boats out in the water, the RVs rolling, ATVs, dirt bikes, you name it. You need batteries for all of it. And Manitoba Batteries, your local spot to take care of all your battery needs, giving you the best price in town, the best in customer service, and shopping local. So keep driving past the big box stores and get the best price in town on your batteries for everything you need this summer at Manitoba Battery. You can visit them in person, Logan Avenue location, Dovercourt Drive in the south end of the city. Manitoba Battery can also deliver those batteries citywide inside the perimeter. You can check them out online at manitobabattery.com or give them a call and order and get them to you. Manitoba Battery, your local leader for all your battery needs. And just before we bring in Mike, folks, if you've got a move coming up this summer, give our friends and longtime sponsors at Rollies Transfer a call. Rollies is the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba for over 60 years and has a special offer for WST listeners. If you go to their website at rollies.com, click on Request an Estimate, make sure to put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. Then just let them know when and where you're moving, what needs to go, and the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that Rollies has been famous for over 6 decades. For all your moving needs, Rollies.com is where you want to go. Tell them the boys at WST sent you. All right, let's get Mike McIntyre in here. Mike, what's going on? What a dud of a weekend, hey?
It really was. Although I laid some grass seed in my backyard late last week, so I didn't mind the rain. But I could use a little heat now. And I see it's coming, Huss. We just got to be a little more patient. I'm looking at the forecast. We'll see how accurate this is. But I see like 26, 27 and sunny by late in the weekend and into early next week. So I feel like we are owed an extended stretch of warm weather, but yeah, it kind of sucks. I'm going to be at the Goldeyes home opener tonight, and they, by what I understand, they're close to a sellout. So it's not like the weather's going to hurt walk up, but you'd love, for a full ballpark. It feels like the fans are owed a lovely late spring, early summer type evening. Instead, it's going to feel a lot colder. But I'm sure the fans will find a way to stay warm tonight.
Yeah, well, listen, good on the Fish, for doing such a good job at selling it close to out well in advance. Because you're right, if people were sitting at home tonight going, should we go to the game? The answer is probably more no than yes with the ugly, ugly weather that we've got right now. But they do have a great setup for tonight. Those beautiful jerseys they're giving away. First 5,000 fans. They got fireworks at the end. I mean, I will be ready to start off the season. But much like the record on the road in Milwaukee this weekend, it's been a tough start to spring and summer for everybody involved, the team, the fans, and hopefully we'll get a nice night today. Hey, while we're talking local right off the bat, let's talk about the Niverville Nighthawks winning the Centennial Cup. What an awesome story. You know, we've had the guys on a couple times in the past couple of weeks as they've sort of won the MJ. We're going to the Centennial Cup and then checked in with them again. It's pretty rarefied air for Manitoba junior hockey teams. I mean, the Portage Terriers did it with that powerhouse team back in 2015. You got to go a long, long ways back for more Manitoba content on that. And just speaks to the amazing squad and organization that this Niverville team has built in just 4 short years.
Yeah, it really is incredible. So I had an up-close viewing of Niverville a few weeks back, the night they won the MJ championship out in Verdun. I had gone out to Verdun that night to watch them finish off the sweep. And, you know, that was my first sort of in-person viewing of this team, Huss. And I came away after watching them that night, you know, and they had punched their ticket at that point to the Centennial Cup, but thinking like, who is beating these guys? They were dynamic in all aspects of the game. And I guess the answer to my question that I sort of asked out loud that night is nobody's beating these guys, because they went into the national championship and rolled through it with a perfect 6-0 record. Like that is something else. And, you know, Huss, like, I was thinking, is this one of the hardest championships to win in all of sports? When you look at the volume of teams, like they're the champions of more than 100 teams across the country. When you consider that, you know, there was nine league champions and the host, and, you know, to sit on top of all of that, you know, they win the 13 team MJHL, which is impressive. But then to go and especially when you consider, you know, some of the powerhouses from Ontario, Quebec, Alberta, British Columbia, and as you say, Huss, like Manitoba, I think this is just the 3rd time a Manitoba team has won it. That, you know, kudos to the coaching staff, management. There's some tremendous players on that team. You know, Adam Vigfusson, the captain. I think you had Adam on, didn't you, at one point?
Yeah, a couple times.
And you know, he was MVP of the tournament, leading scorer, just dynamic and a great showing for the province.
Austin Dubinsky, the goaltender who joined Vigfusson and the Coach Hurst with us last week. He won the goaltender of the year for the CJHL.
Is Dwight Hurst going to be, like, I have to think, Huss, this, from everything I heard about him, I know Sean Reynolds is actually a good friend of him. He got the shout out on Hockey Night in Canada last night. Like, Dwight Hurst, he's going places, right? Like, this guy's coaching career isn't ending at the MJHL. I think we can all assume that.
Well, listen, I have no idea what his, I mean, we had some great conversations, but I don't know like whether that's an aspiration of his. He was apparently involved in the Niverville team in its inception and took over from the first head coach. I want to say maybe at some point in the 2nd year or something like that.
Midway through the 2nd year, yeah.
But was already there with the organization and then sort of took it over and has obviously led them to probably heights they couldn't have imagined just a couple years ago. So I'll tell you what, I mean, if he is looking at continuing and coaching is the passion and that's what he wants to do, pretty damn good thing to have on the resume. There's no doubt about that. Just to put it into perspective of how rare this is, going back to the beginning of the Centennial Cup, which is in 1971, Manitoba had a great start. They won it in 73. That was the Portage Terriers.
Yeah.
They won it in 74. That was the Selkirk Steelers. And then it was all the way from 74 to 2015 until the Portage Terriers won, I believe, hosting as well, actually. Yeah,
they were the host. Yeah.
They were the host. Those are the only Centennial Cup wins that the teams has ever had. I mean, it was tough to even get there for a long time because the Manitoba Junior League had to beat the Saskatchewan League to get into it. It had been a while. There'd been a few Manitoba teams that had won. I know the Blues, Winnipeg South Blues had a crazy run in 1995 and lost in overtime in the national semifinal. I think finished third in that tournament. But anyway, just wanted to kind of start it off there with a great bit of a local story right off the bat. Staying with hockey, the Habs, the Montreal playoff voodoo is in full effect right now, Mike. Another Game 7 victory in a game that they really, let's be honest, had no business winning, and yet they did. And they're moving on to take on the Carolina Hurricanes, who haven't played in almost 2 weeks. It's for whatever reason, you get to the spring, and every 5 or 10 years, weird stuff starts happening, and it is definitely happening right now for the Habs, who won on a knuckler from Alex Newhook, who's the new playoff hero in Montreal after sending him to the third round.
Well, he's the new Justin Williams, Mr. Game 7, Huss, because he also scored the winner in Game 7 in round 1 as well against Tampa. Yeah, I mean, hey, to their credit, at least they had more than 9 shots last night, which is all they had when they beat Tampa in Game 7. But, they to go on the road now, 2 straight series and win a Game 7 on the road, like that is some, and they're basically the NHL's youngest team, right? You talk about learning on the fly and, some serious maturing that's happening with that group. Look, and I get it. There's the Canadiens, not unlike the Leafs, there's a love-hate, right? You don't find a lot of middle ground. Like there are people who are ecstatic today. There are people who are livid, and very little gray area there. But, I think I'm just looking at it purely from a hockey fan, hockey observer's perspective. How can you not appreciate what the Habs have done as a young team in a league that's getting younger and faster? And, they've got a mix too. Like it's not just all the kids carrying the team. Alex Newhook is not a kid. They've got veterans like Josh Anderson. Obviously Brendan Gallagher, who's been in and out of the lineup. Phil Deneau, what a job he's been doing as a shutdown center.
Getting Deneau back was huge for Montreal. And, I really thought that Gallagher would be in last night.
Yeah, me too.
I was a little surprised that he wasn't in, just with the stakes of the game and his experience, but they rode with the guys that brought them there. And you mentioned about being a young team, Mike. This blew me away. And the 2026 Habs are the youngest team in the NHL to make the conference finals since 1993. The Montreal Canadiens doing it again.
How did that work out? Pretty good, I recall.
So,
yeah,
and I think I said this on the show before. I mean, I'm with you. I mean, no love lost for Leafs or Habs at all. I mean, I grew up not being able to stand them, being a Jets fan, and just hating the way the building would get taken over or get half and half when those teams would come in. And I'd always been a guy that said, no, I don't want another Canadian team to win the cup. I want the Jets. I want our team to win the cup and be the team that brings it back to Canada. After losing the gold medal in February, I've done a 180. I was cheering for Buffalo. And I mean, I really like that Buffalo team, their fan base. I kind of hoped that they would continue on. But now that the Habs have won, let's just end this and we don't have to deal with it anymore, talking about a drought for the Canadian teams. And I'll tell you what, this team has enough weird stuff going on with it that I do not rule out beating the Carolina Hurricanes at all, especially when you think about the fact that they were 3-0 against them, playing them in the regular season.
Yeah, and this, it's the ultimate rust versus rest test here, Huss. Yeah. Because I believe Carolina is going to now set a record for the longest layoff ever between playoff games. And, they're 8-0. Like, they've played the bare minimum, whereas the Habs have played the absolute maximum you could play. They've gone to the limit. So you've got one team that's played 8 total games and won't have played for almost 2 weeks against a team that's played nearly double, 14 games. And, obviously the emotional and physical toll that takes. And, I almost wonder, I'm fascinated by how this plays out, because I'm gonna bring up a series, Huss, that will be a little painful for some Jets fans. Go back to 2018 and different circumstances, sure. But the Jets went the maximum against Nashville. You had the 2 best regular season teams. Obviously, the Jets prevailed in that epic Game 7. The Vegas Golden Knights, and it wasn't a 11-day layoff, but they had already wrapped up their series a few days earlier, right? They had the benefit of some rest. And if I recall, now maybe this is revisionist history by me, but didn't the next series almost start 2 days later? There was no break at all for the Jets. They jumped right into Game 1 of the Western Conference Final, and they won it. And, they won it handily. And clearly the Jets rode all the momentum from Game 7, where Vegas, who hadn't played in a while, looked rusty. However, as we now know, the Jets, that was their emotional apex. It was all downhill after Game 1. The tank was empty. They were out of gas, and Vegas took that series over and ended up winning 4 straight. I'm curious to see if this series plays out similar. I would not discount Montreal going into Carolina on Thursday night and getting off to a good start, because they're going to have all this momentum, and they're young. They don't know any better. But I do wonder if, as the series plays out, that it catches up to them in some way. And Carolina, which, let's face it, is a pretty darn good hockey team, they're no fluke. I put it this way: I'll be picking the Hurricanes to win the series. This will be Montreal's toughest test of the 3 series. And I'm curious to see how both Game 1 and then Game 2 play out in this one.
Yeah. Here's one. Dan, Jets fan, I love you. I'm not picking on you, but this is something that I've heard from some others. The Jets should take a good look at how the Habs are able to push through playoffs with young players. And I mean, I get it. They've got a really young, exciting team. They made the playoffs last year. They are where they are. But there is an element of how the hell are they doing it? Because if you watch these, now listen, they got to Game 7 both times against 2 really good teams. But how they won Game 7 flies in the face of all logic and common sense, in that they were not even close to the better team on the ice, and yet they're celebrating in the dressing room and they're going back home, or on the road again, as it were, to start another series. I mean, there is an element of randomness in hockey, and we always talk about, who's a playoff contender, who can win the cup. I mean, there, more so than in any of the other professional sports, I will say, there is a chip and a chair element to succeeding in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And listen, it is great that Montreal is where they are. And I think that, there is something to be said about empowering young players and putting them into those situations. But I mean, I have a hard time drawing too many hot takes or big conclusions from this, considering the magical way that they're doing it.
Yeah, and again, keep in mind they got thoroughly dominated by Tampa. But if we were talking about the Final Four being Colorado, Vegas, Tampa, Carolina, we'd be in Tampa, they probably should have won Game 7. Not probably. They should have won Game 7. They should have won games.
Canada probably should have won the gold medal game too. They didn't. It's the same thing.
And I mean, if that's your Final Four, like it's the same four teams that kind of are always in the mix, right? So yeah, there's a degree of randomness. That being said, I mean, credit to the Habs. This is not a team that has done this by being a lucrative free agent destination, or they've made some good trades for sure that have paid off. But they've also drafted really well. Now, part of that is because they were crummy for a number of years, and they got some really high draft picks. But they also hit on some guys that maybe other teams overlooked. You watch Lane Hudson play, and you're like, how did he not go earlier?
Well, I think that's pretty obvious. They thought he looked like a 14-year-old, and he's 5'8", and they think this guy's going to get killed in the NHL. Well, guess what? He's not, and he's changing games. He
really is, and something to consider as we look towards the draft for the Jets and one Vijo Bjork, and maybe I'm watching him play at the Worlds, and he's more than holding his own against big, strong NHL players. But, us just getting back quickly to this Carolina-Montreal series, we got what Jets fans maybe wanted. Nikolai Ehlers versus his best buddy, Patrick Laine. Oh, wait, not really. On paper, anyways. I wrote about this last week. I know you probably talked about it to death. The
funny thing was, Mike, about that is I was just talking with Ken, and I couldn't help but just think about what's happening with Montreal right now and the fact that he's a black ace. And we were talking about it. He goes, you know what? I think Mike's actually got a piece coming out on this later on. And, for moving forward, we'll touch on this a bit more. By the way, I don't know if you saw the video that they showed last night in the Habs locker room. And I think it was of Demidov coming off after he finally scored. Yeah. And there were the players, and then there was the black aces, and then there was Laine there. He was wearing some pink shirt, and he had the long hair, basically the skullet that he's rocking right now. And I could not help but think Hulk Hogan when I saw him. And then I thought, you know what? Maybe an NWO version of Patrick Laine comes back to the peg, back to the National Hockey League, and gets back to great heights. It's certainly a fun topic, one that Jet fans have a lot of time for, and very polarizing opinions on both sides.
Well, I'll say this, Huss. We have ways now. We see metrics of stories and columns we write. The Laine piece last week, it obliterated a lot of our metrics. He is, and this was the case when he was on the team. He is a major needle mover in this market. Now, did I write that piece as a bit of clickbait? Okay, maybe. I'll admit it. But I think it's a discussion worth having. I mean, if he's going to continue if he's continuing his NHL career, pretty clear it's not in Montreal. Yeah. He's mostly out of sight, out of mind. He hasn't played since October, and, it would take, I imagine at this point, a whole bunch of injuries for them to even consider putting him in the lineup. So he's probably played his last game with the Habs. Now, what is he going to do beyond this season? I don't know. I'm not in his head. Does he retire from hockey? I guess he could. Does he go back to Europe? Maybe. But if he wants to continue his NHL career, I kind of made the case that, first of all, his contract, I would imagine, is going to be extremely on the low end. Maybe with some incentives, that sort of thing. I made the argument that if there are incentives, they should be performance-based, not games played-based, a la the Jonathan Toews contract. But let's face it, where did Patrick Laine have the best years of his professional hockey career? Here in Winnipeg, the place he once wrote an article about. Winnipeg is good, how much he loved it. Did his time here end on the best of notes? Of course not, but some things have changed. And you know what? The Jets could use some secondary scoring. They could also use some help in the PR department, selling tickets. I just think there's a potential marriage made in hockey heaven there. A low risk if the contract, was 1 year and a base salary of like $1 million or something, and potentially high reward. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, hey, everybody tried, you move on. But I'm not saying it's going to happen. I just think it's something worth exploring. And I'll tell you this, Huss, although I got some pushback, a lot of people online, social media saying, oh, the last thing the Jets need is, they were talking about the last thing they need is another old, slow player. First of all, he's not old. He's only 28. Is he slow? Yeah, for sure. Is he a one-trick pony at this point? Maybe. And is that one trick even very good anymore? We don't know. He's barely played the last 2 years. But I did a little vote on social media on my X account. I think there was almost 300 people voted. 70%. So the silent majority, I'll put it, said they would love to see the Jets take a run at signing him. And, we'll see, obviously, July 1st or 2nd or whenever, but we'll see if it comes to be. But, it's something to keep an eye on and certainly something to have some water cooler debate over.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it only makes sense for the Jets if it is relatively low risk. I think there could be a high reward. It could also be low risk, low reward, and you move on. Right. But for a team right now that has a bunch of needs, but I would say without a doubt, the power play, which was an issue this year after being so good the year before, would get an absolute boost, some different looks. I mean, we talk about his shot. He can also pass. And, I mean, so much of this is going to be determined by him, where he's interested in going, who's interested in him, and how focused he is at really doing everything he can to resuscitate a career that was so promising that's gone completely off the rails. So, Laine will be an interesting one when it comes to July 1. What do you think... our old pals, what was the hit to Stan's value over the course of the playoffs? Because he's had a career year, moves over at the deadline, for the most part played pretty well for Buffalo early on. He was kind of doing his 12, 13 minutes. He was killing penalties. And then, a little bit of that chaos that we became kind of used to got into the game. And Lindy Ruff was not trusting him anymore to the point where he played Luke Schenn over him, which still blows my mind. But the fact of the matter was neither of those guys were in the lineup at the end of the game. And I have a hard time thinking, based on the way it ended, that the Sabres are going to be signing up for more of Stan, which then does make us wonder, well, is that 5x5 contract that a number of the insiders said might be out there for him, or is it going to be another 1 or 2 year prove-it deal for Logan Stanley after a disappointing end to his season and one where he didn't make the most of his opportunity in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me, Huss, and you're right, I think Stanley played fine down the stretch for Buffalo. They obviously, he was in the lineup. He was pretty much a regular over the last quarter of the season. And, the team was playing really well. They won their division. That being said, one thing that disappeared from Stanley's game entirely, really, was the offense that he was producing. He had the 9 goals here in Winnipeg when his career high had been 1. And I'm just looking at the stats here, 17 games regular season with the Sabres and 8 playoff games. He never scored. And I think what happened, Huss, is he regressed kind of probably to the level that he is in terms of an offensive player. And why does that matter? I mean, we don't talk about Logan Stanley in offense, but if we're talking about a $5 million a year contract, there's got to be more than just an okay defensive game and then some unique intangibles. The offense, I think, was driving that price up to a degree. Well, now the offense has totally dried up. And if you're signing Logan Stanley, are you signing him with the idea that he could score 10 for you on a yearly basis? Or is he probably just going to get 1 or 2? And I think that's going to be a factor in his price tag. There's no question in my mind that price tag came down. Although he's probably not the biggest stock dropper on the Sabres. How about Alex Tuch's value, Huss? So, rumors that he was looking at 10 million a year. 7 games against Montreal, 0 points, -9. Good luck getting your double digits salary, whether it's with Buffalo or so. I mean, I don't know what Logan Stanley's deal looks like. I still think he could probably get some term, but I think he'll be sacrificing, an AAV. Like, to me, Huss, is he getting more than 3.5 now? Like, if there's some term attached to it? I don't know about that.
Here's the thing. We're sitting here talking about this the day after they got bounced from the playoffs. And listen, the fact that Stan wasn't even in the roster for the last few games, that is significant, and he was never established enough. I was feeling the same way as you, like, oh, wow, how much did Alex Tuch cost himself? And then I step away for a minute and realize that come July 1, especially with
their mind.
having every other top player already signed.
Yeah.
And the scarcity. And, like, did he have a terrible 2 weeks in this series? And that's going to be something that, won't be a positive for him? Yeah. But 33 goals, 36 goals. The 2 seasons before that, 36 and 79. Great character guy. Size, speed, all of that. Without a lot else on the market.
Yeah.
Like I said before, it only takes one. And whether it's the Sabres ponying up and saying, okay, we're going to give you, let's meet at 9 or 9.5. Here's your 8 years. Stay home in Buffalo. Be a part of this moving forward. I think that probably is still likely to happen.
Me too.
But if he gets to July 1st, like, I don't think we're going to be seeing a guy, oh, he got 5 years at $7 million, and we were all thinking it was going to be so much more. There will be a team out there that is going to be willing to pay Alex Tuch.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Although I go back to Nikolai Ehlers last year, and did Ehlers get the money we kind of thought he would on the open market, Huss? Like, there were some that no. Now, maybe, and we don't know. Maybe Ehlers limited his own market a little bit. I think he really wanted to go to Carolina, and I think there was probably some other offers he was entertaining. Maybe he sacrificed some money. So you're right. I mean, there usually is a team or two, especially now with the cap going up. There's probably going to be a team that kind of forgets the recent past, looks at the bigger body of work. And I guess we can have this discussion another day, Huss. Should that team be the Jets? You just talked about what Alex Tuch can do when he's on his game. Isn't that the kind of player the Winnipeg Jets sure could use?
Oh,
like a fast, a big scoring forward. I mean, yeah, I don't think the Jets are paying him $10 million, but I got to think at the very least they'd want to check in on the player, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, if the Jets are going to get Alex Tuch, they're probably paying 11.5 because they're going to have to overpay beyond what everyone else was offering to even get him to consider it. And at a certain point, do you need that much more money? Do you want to be in a place that you like, that you want to win?
Right.
And, who knows whether that is the case. But, I mean, particularly for those of us here, when we look at the guys that left Winnipeg and what they may be able to get on the open market, the Alex Tuch, we will be talking about this series with the Montreal Canadiens when both of those players are signed. As to, like, everyone forgot about that, or wow, that really did impact their business. Hey, just before we go, you mentioned Vigo or Vigio Bjork, however we call it, whatever his name is, Viggy.
Viggy, yeah.
You mentioned how good he's looked, and like playing ahead of the 3rd overall pick last year in the draft, who made his NHL debut at the end of the year. The knock on this guy is his size. Might he be playing himself into a position that, never mind, it's if the Jets will pick him, will he even be on the board if the Jets don't move up and sit at 8 and wait to see what's available?
That's exactly my thinking at this point, Huss. Like, so the more I've watched him, the more I've read up on him and what others have had to say about him, the more I'm convinced that if he's still there at 8, the Jets absolutely have to take this guy. I don't care about the size. They have to take this player. But B, I don't think he's going to be there at 8 at this point. And I think what he's doing at the Worlds and where, as you say, where he's playing in that lineup, they've got all kinds of NHL talent on that team, and he's playing on the top power play unit, the top line, and he looks right at home. And they just he did some pretty special things. They played Canada the other day. Like, he's taken faceoffs against Sidney Crosby and Mark Scheifele and more than holding his own, and the physicality part of it. Ivar Stenberg as well. Like, my goodness, this kid's stock is shooting up. And it's interesting that Gavin McKenna was asked to play in this event and declined because he wanted to just work on his training. But, I'm curious to see, because there was always this debate about McKenna and Stenberg. And I do wonder if now it's the Leafs and they probably are going to go with McKenna, but like, to me, there's now no doubt in my mind Stenberg is going at the latest at number 2. But yeah, Bjork, I don't think he gets to 8 at this point, because I think enough teams are now watching him do what he's doing on a big stage. But the spinoff to that, I guess, Huss, is that could push maybe an unexpected player down Winnipeg's way at 8. If a guy like Bjork, if you were thinking was going to be there at 8, and there was a debate about whether you'd take him in that spot, but now he's going to go in the top 7. Well, that means that's pushing someone else down that you kind of assumed was going to be gone. So, yeah, it's an interesting time for sure. And I got to think, there's so much parity to the top, 6, 8, 10 players in this draft that, if you were to randomly poll all 32 teams, I got to think that everybody's list would look a bit different at this point, that there's not a whole lot of consensus. So it should make for a very exciting, June 26th, Huss? There should be a lot of unpredictability that night in terms of who goes where and when, and maybe some movement, guys looking to trade up or trade down if they have a guy that they want, that they think is still going to be there, even if it's a few picks later. It should create some real unpredictability, and that's what we want, right?
You know it, Mike. Well, we'll have lots of time to talk about this over the course of the next few weeks, heading into the draft in Buffalo. Thanks so much for doing this, and we'll catch up soon. Maybe we'll see you at the ballpark tonight.
You betcha. Bundle up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take it easy, pal. Yeah. Right on. There is Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press. Our pal, the Hammer, is going to join us in just a couple of minutes. I do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto for their great support of WST. Of course, we're counting down to getting back to Princess Auto Stadium for Bomber season. June 11th, the Bomber home opener, Princess Auto Stadium. Princess Auto, of course, is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is waiting for you at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon. And, of course, you can shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Well, the gang at Chud's Power Sports is back after the long weekend, ready to get into spring finally and summer with the best in motorcycles, ATVs, side-by-sides, golf carts, boats and outboard motors, recreational vehicles, Argos, off-road vehicles, ATVs, you name it. It is right now at Chud's Power Sports. That's all their new inventory. They've also got an incredible selection of used inventory, including motorcycles, side-by-sides, RVs, and more. Great financing options and the most experienced and trusted staff in the business, as Chud's has been doing it up in Gimli for over 80 years. Make the drive up to the corner of Highway 8 and 231 for Manitoba's #1 power sports superstore, Chud's Power Sports. You can also check them out online at chudspowersports.com. Got to shout out Dr. Terry and our friends at St. Vital Dental Center. Folks, if you are looking to settle on a long-term home for you and your family at a dental clinic that has been trusted for generations of Winnipeggers, make your way down to St. Vital Dental Center. And they've got a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's Road, conveniently located there with convenient free parking right behind the building. And, of course, a wide array of dental services from clients from 6 months to 99 plus. From cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants, St. Vital Dental Center does it all with a smile and will make your smile look better than ever before. Find them online at stvitaldental.ca and make sure to pop by, say hi to Dr. Terry, and tell him the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. No puck tonight, but we're back at it with the conference finals tomorrow and Thursday. No better place to take in those games than your local Boston Pizza. Dive into the new playoff menu with the MVP platter. Pizza flights, wing flights are back, and wash it down with a couple ice-cold schooners with the game on the big screens with big sound. Make it Boston Pizza when you're getting together to watch the big game, and if you are staying at home, you can get the great taste of BP hot and fresh to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's check in with our guy, Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press. Hammer, what's going on? Now, I mean, we all know that it was a garbage long weekend. You look like you have a new background. Has the move been completed? Hold on a sec. I can't hear you. Is that on our end, Reem?
He's just got to click something. Doesn't like his microphone. One sec. Anyways, you want to do the Toyota read here, and I'll figure out Jeff?
Yeah.
Oh, he's good now.
All right. I think there's an echo, Remo. You might just need to do that. Hey, while we bring on Jeff, let me mention that this segment's brought to you by your Prairie Toyota dealers and the Toyota Tacoma, featuring the panoramic multi-terrain view monitor that gives you a live underfloor view to navigate even the toughest terrain with ease. And when it's time to load up, the available power liftgate makes loading your gear in and out a cinch. Experience power, capability, and convenience with the Toyota Tacoma. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Prairie Toyota dealer during Red Tag Days through the end of May. Hammer, what's up? Is the move complete?
Huss, yeah, as I was saying there, and sorry about that. I think that's on me. I found my microphone about halfway through setting up, and I kind of switched it up on Remo last second there. So I probably was the issue around the audio concerns. But yeah, the move is still. I was saying moves never really end. So my hope is in a couple of years we'll be settled in nicely and be enjoyed the fruits of our labor from the last couple of weeks. But but good weekend nonetheless. I think I'm with everybody else that wants to see Mother Nature stop being so cruel to us here on the prairies and usher us back into summer weather. That would be nice anytime soon. But outside of that, man, can't really complain.
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone's been complaining about the weather, and especially our friends at the Gold Eyes, although home opener tonight, not really the best of baseball weather, but we'll gut it out. Meanwhile, the Bombers have probably been telling these new players, like, don't worry, guys, it does get better. As far as camp actually going, some pretty tough news for a guy that was thought to be maybe a big piece of this Bomber defense this year. The returning Javon Santos Knox out for the season, as announced this weekend. Not a great start on the injury front for the Blue and Gold.
Yeah, it's one of those things that he was just a great return, right? Everybody loved Javon Santos Knox when he was in Winnipeg, and he wasn't here that long, but like others before him, was able to make an impression that was, obviously through his play, but also through who he is and how he acted with the community and whatever. Like, he was just a really good dude, and he obviously left. He was in Edmonton, I believe, right? When he returned after. I don't know if he ever did work out for NFL teams, but he was definitely getting that attention. Those who remember closely. He was injured. He had like a banged up ankle when he was done with the Bombers, and he was trying to figure out his future. And then obviously he moved on to Ottawa, and I'd always see him when I went up to the nation's capital, and he was a guy I made sure I said hello to, just because he's just one of those guys that, like, when you see him, he's going to give you this big smile, and he's going to remember who you are, and he's just just one of those guys you don't mind running into. And and his return to Winnipeg was at a great time. It was, Winnipeg obviously coming off a bad year, had dipped into free agency and addressed some of their issues, particularly on the offensive and defensive lines. And, it looked like a team to be reckoned with this year. And he was going to be a piece of that puzzle. He wasn't here during the Bombers run, right, of Grey Cups. He left before that. So, he was excited to be a part of that. And then, to have the injury occur, I mean, there's no good timing, but to have it occur on the first day of training camp is just that extra shot right in the gut. And so to get that news from Mike this week or this past weekend about him being out for the season, which I think everyone kind of assumed, I don't know if it's gotten out, but obviously it's obviously super serious. It's just an unfortunate part. The other side of that, Huss, is that I don't want to say that they didn't need him, but they kind of didn't need him. Like, they are pretty good at linebacker with Kyrie Wilson and, Tony Jones and Michael Ayers and, Woodbury and like all these different guys that they have. So like, he was almost kind of like, I don't want to say an embarrassment of riches because he is getting later in his career, but he was a guy that was like, wow, it's a really nice piece to round out what's looking like a really good roster, at least on paper.
Hammer, from when you've been out and what you've been hearing, what's the latest on the battle at the quarterback position behind Zach Collaros? I couldn't help but notice Bombers social media posting a number of clips of Mr. Elgersma, and my initial reaction to that was, there's already a lot of hype and a lot of, I think, pressure on this guy to turn out. I'm not sure that they maybe don't do that unless he very clearly is opening some eyes and turning heads every time he's out there on the field.
Well, let's also say this right here, Haz. As we talked in previous interviews about the priorities of the president or owner not necessarily being aligned with the head coach of the team, I would certainly apply that to the head coach of this team and the social media team, right? So like it's not like Mike is saying really get an eye on Taylor Elgersma and let people think he's the heir apparent here. This is a guy who obviously made a lot of waves in NFL camps. He's Canadian. He's Bombers property. It took a while to get him back up here, if you will. And so, of course, they're paying attention to him. It also helps that the guy's a physical specimen, right? He looks like a Greek god sculpted out of, whatever, use your ingredient here. But it's just, he also is a good football player, right? If he was throwing, duds or whatever, he wouldn't be getting that attention. And I can tell you right now, he wouldn't be highlighted on social media, because the feeling around there would be, this guy's struggling. That's obviously not the case. To answer your question, though, it's going to be really interesting on how they handle him, because I think as we spoke about last week, Huss, with, Zach Collaros and what this could mean for the future of his career and whether he feels reinvigorated either by a young guy on his heels right now or by the fact that you have Trevor Harris and, other guys in the league, obviously Bo Levi Mitchell, who are extending their careers, playing some of their best football, at an age that is older than Zach right now. So, but all in all, to me, like, Taylor Elgersma is going to be the future, and it's right. It's how you handle that. It's, I know there's been some conversation around where you put him on the depth chart. Well, if he's picking up plays as quickly as we're led to believe, and he's able to, do a lot of what the Bombers want him to do on offense, and he's earned that second spot, absolutely you put him there. If you feel like he could use a little bit more seasoning, or even if you just want to shelter him, we also understand here that the Bombers do things differently, right? They do it the Mike O'Shea way, which isn't completely opposite of everybody else, but it's certainly unique to the average, football outfit. And what I mean by that is you're probably going to get, even if Taylor Elgersma is the second best quarterback, and if Terry Wilson is still on the roster, you're probably going to get Terry Wilson as number 2, strictly from the fact that he's been in the building longer than Taylor Elgersma, right? Like, that doesn't necessarily mean that, it also doesn't mean that the second person on the depth chart will be the first person in the event of an injury, right? There's no, in typical traditional football, that would be the obvious situation, right? That the second person on the depth chart would be the guy who goes in after the first person on the depth chart is injured. But again, that isn't always the case in these kind of situations. And I would caution that with Taylor Elgersma. And that's to my point of, well, how do they handle this? Do they look at, even if he is is doing well enough to be named number 2, do you put him as number 3 just to take the pressure off? Again, you don't have to go with the number 2 in a situation. If your number 1 gets hurt, you can go with whoever you want. It might just be to protect him. But what I can say about this, Huss, is there's things that are for sure going on in the Bombers' head. One, Zach Collaros is the starting quarterback of this team, and it is his responsibility, at least part of his responsibility, certainly not solely his responsibility, but at least part of, to get Taylor Elgersma up to speed. And the good news is Zach's a really, really friendly guy, and he's a guy that is willing to share his knowledge, is willing to share what he's seen in his decade playing in this league, right? So that's going to be a big benefit to Taylor, who's a quick learner. And but there's no doubt in my mind whether Taylor Elgersma starts as number 2 on the depth chart this year or number 3, when we're talking about long term here, this is certainly the guy that they envision being their number 1 one day.
Yeah, I the whole thing with Terry Wilson is interesting. I mean, he's been a pretty good third down quarterback, and I think he could certainly do that role again. The reason why I do think that the door is open for Elgersma to go in and legitimately get the number 2 job is partly based on history. And we can talk about loyalty all we want. They were loath to ever put Terry Wilson into a game unless they had absolutely no other options. And that's something that I think about as well. Like, it's great that he's been around for a long time. They never seem to want to play him. So, I mean, if you're keeping a guy around like that and know that he can do the third down job well and is a good guy and part of the team and fits in well, that's great. But what happens if Zach gets hurt? What happens if he can't go for a couple weeks? Who's getting the start? And that, I think, is what they are going to want to find out sooner as opposed to later, because we all know early last season they were forced into a situation like that, and there really isn't a lot of clarity and certainly not a lot of experience behind Zach Collaros right now on this roster.
Yeah, it's a good point, Huss. And if you look at Terry Wilson's tenure here, I mean, this team before Chris Strevler, who we can debate whether is, he never ended up being a starting quarterback in the CFL, right? He was he was a guy who helped the Bombers win that cup in 2019 and became a unicorn and then returned after a unique stint in the NFL, right? To not become a starting quarterback. But he was kind of, he's been in Terry Wilson's way for a number of reasons. Mike O'Shea is a guy who loves Chris Strevler, right? He loves what he brings to the table. Chris Strevler was 3-1 as a can't ignore
against
that part
all
too.
odds. If you recall the games,
I'm not making it. Yeah, I remember I was there and I was in the nation's capital when he had a hard time explaining how they won that game. It was Trey. Spoiler alert! It was Trey
all-timer.
Yeah, all-timer for sure. But that's my point. Before that, it was Sean McGuire. Well, Sean McGuire finally got his opportunity at the end of the year, and then just told the Bombers he was done with football. He wasn't good enough, and then it was just goodbye. That's kind of been the problem here. Whenever this team has kind of discovered, if you will, a quarterback, it's almost been by accident, right? You have, whether it was Matt Nichols, who came out of an injury, he was like a retread. He wasn't a guy who was awesome. He was coming out of a bunch of injuries in Edmonton and, was a game manager and whatever. With Chris Strevler, it was the injury to Nichols that forced him to be a starter that made him the unicorn that he is today. With Zach Collaros, the Bombers were forced to bring him in at the trade deadline in 2019 against, Mike O'Shea's wanting to, right? That loyalty back in play. Thank God they didn't listen to him. And so, I think this is where it breaks that thing. It has to break that thing. And I think, and Taylor Elgersma needs to get opportunities to grow. It's great that he's going to learn under Zach. It's great that he's going to be, in those rooms and get all those advantages of being with a veteran and being able to watch from the sidelines and all that. But the Bombers need to do an active role on improving him to take over for Zach. And they haven't done that. And they have finally a guy in the room who's got all the tools, who looks the role, who's Canadian. You have to go out of your way. And I'll say out of your way because the Bombers will have to go out of their way because it's not the way they've been doing things to get him meaningful reps, to get his development development in place so that whether it's next year or the year after that, this guy is in a position to take over the offense, and we're not debating where he is on the depth chart because they didn't want to give him the reps in games where they should have, and it demanded it.
What's the latest on the O-line? Tui Eli seems to be picking up the center responsibilities pretty well, and obviously, I mean, it sounds like Broxton has been all business since he got there. I mean, you know what you got on the sides. I mean, figuring out that middle of the interior of the offensive line, obviously another big story in training camp, knowing the importance of that, not only to Brady Oliveira, but also putting off what we were just talking about, having to go to a number 2 quarterback because your QB1 is healthy and upright.
Yeah, well, that's part of the whole play here, obviously, in bringing in a guy like Broxton from BC and paying him big money to be on the right side, flanking. What is it that me and Stanley Bryant share in common? Huss.
You're the same age.
Yeah, we're both 40 years old. The difference is he's at a CFL camp, and I don't bring this up to retire Stan the man as they refer to him in Winnipeg, but how much it's kind of like Nino Niederreiter and Vlad Nemestikov. It's different because this is the greatest offensive lineman in all time. But how many more years can you ask him to do and play at a level that he's been playing? Eventually he's going to get worse. And we've seen this in football, they're going to fall off a cliff, right? I'm not saying that Stan's future here for this year, but he has dealt with some health issues in the past here. So I guess my point is the health of the lineup is pretty good because, they're debating with Tui. Tui's been here now, for 6 years, and he's been a really good soldier. He's done everything they've asked him to do. They obviously like him personally, otherwise they wouldn't have him around. But this is kind of I'm not going to say it's kind of like crap or get off the pot situation for him because I don't think hasn't done his role, but it just seems like they're not convinced to put him in that center position, right? And they weren't convinced to do that last year when Chris Kolinkowski was kind of falling off a little bit, right? So I don't know, it just doesn't seem like he's cemented there. And the reality of the situation is the Bombers aren't forced to put him there, right? They have a unique situation here where they could go with 3 Canadian receivers potentially. They have Dante Daniels and Chris Ike and guys that can play tight end, and they're going to bring some unique formations here with some added protection likely. But the interesting part about the Canadian thing is that they have an abundance of Canadian starters that they're probably looking at starting, 3 Americans, possibly even 4 on the line. And that's been something that you've seen other teams across the league do. BC's doing that. There's a couple other clubs that are buying into this, Americanized O-lines, and we're starting to see that here, and we'll definitely see that here if Tui Eli can't get the job done, or I don't even want to frame it like that. If it doesn't win the job at center and they give it to someone else, will most likely be American.
Well, I will say this: if Nino Niederreiter and Vlad played at a Stanley Bryant level last year, we'd be having very different conversations about their spots on the team in this
for sure.
Jeff Hamilton's with us from the Winnipeg Free Press. Well, speaking of hockey, the Habs do it again. I mean, no rhyme, no reason towards how they're winning these game 7s and advancing, and yet here they are, youngest team in the conference finals since 1993, and we remembered what happened there. Thoughts on Montreal's chances to keep this magic carpet ride going against the Canes, who will have an NHL record layoff before getting into their next series back at home on Thursday night?
Yeah, it's admittedly, Huss, I did this conversation to myself at the intermission after the third period, just being just watch with your ears for a little bit longer, and then you'll be, then you'll wake up. I fell asleep and woke up to the big celebration in overtime. So I fell asleep for the part that mattered. I just was hanging on. But you know what? This was such a weird series.
Totally.
It was just and I know the question with pundits heading into game 7 was it going to follow this line like the series had, where one team ultimately showed up and the other team didn't for long stretches, and it was kind of decided. I know there was a lot of excitement early on in the series and whatnot, but I felt like it warranted more of a cautious game, and it didn't really start that way. But I thought it was 2 teams that both felt. See, here's the thing: it was 2 teams, in my opinion, that had the weight of the world on their shoulders. Right? You had the Canadiens who were building on this, obviously this awesome run since they went to the Stanley Cup Finals in the COVID year, and and that was kind of whatever year. This is the first, the fruits of their rebuild, if you will, right? And this is meant to be better days in Montreal, so it's awesome to see them make it to the East Final here, right? And but then you had the Buffalo Sabres, who've have kind of been the team that everybody crapped on, and the team that the city nobody wanted to go. Sound familiar? It's the team that hadn't been in the playoffs forever, and you were counting you're wondering if it was ever going to happen, and then the mismanagement, and then you had their excitement and whatever. So it's almost the saddest part, Huss, is that series had to end. But I guess the silver lining, if you will, from it all, has to be the fact that it went to 7 games, and we were treated with a great deciding game by the end of it.
Yeah, it's I'm looking forward to this series. I know that we'll get to it in the Coolbet lines. Carolina's a big favorite, but at this point, when it comes to the Habs, all bets are off, and to me, they are very much live to do something that I don't think a lot of people thought was possible at the beginning of the playoffs, but yet here they are looking to move on to, and it was the 4th time since 2010 they've been to the conference finals. But it's the fact that they're so young, and maybe the way that they won their 2 Game 7s, being clearly the lesser of the 2 teams, but finding a way. And combination of goaltending, a little bit of that Habs voodoo, and they're moving on. And this Alex Newhook, I mean, he was I guess he got traded for Lehkonen, and for a while that trade didn't look great. Certainly what Lehkonen's been able to do over in Colorado.
Recency bias is sure as hell going in one direction.
He's now a Habs playoff legend. I mean, he's got 7 goals. He's got the winner in back-to-back Game 7s. Last night, in the long storied history of Les Canadiens, they had never had a Game 7 overtime win on the road. He made that happen last night. So
never?
That's their first. And again, Game 7 overtime wins are somewhat, rare. But if there's a team that's been in a bunch, it's Montreal. And yeah, it was the first time that it had gone to OT and they'd won on the road. One other NHL thing I want to bring up, and I was saving this to get to you.
Great.
Elliot Friedman today, I was listening to him. So the NHL, I guess, heard the complaints of the Vegas Golden Knights for their $100,000 fine and losing of a second-round pick for not fulfilling their media responsibilities. And then they also updated that they still do not want to give Bruce Cassidy permission to speak to the Kings, but particularly the Edmonton Oilers, although they might be open to them speaking to the Toronto Maple Leafs, obviously over in the East. I mean, just thoughts on Vegas. Not whatever. We'll talk about Vegas and Colorado on the ice tomorrow when they get going with their series. But their act last week, getting those fines, and then the way they're handling the Cassidy situation, which is as cutthroat as we've seen in the NHL before.
Okay, so let's start with the fines, obviously. Look, I thought the act was, you kind of got, much like these things happen, they play out online on social media, and you kind of get tugged in a, variety of different directions. And you're hearing one group of people talking about how Vegas is notorious for their airport, and you have to leave at a certain time. If you don't do that, then you're screwed or whatever. And so you kind of understand that part. And then you hear that it has to do with McNabb's suspension, that this team had put their backs up, and we're going to send a message to the league by limiting their room, and then not having their coach address afterwards, and all those things. So then that's all kind of blended in, Huss, with the fact that John Tortorella is at the center of it, right? So it's then you just you don't know what to believe, because this guy has a history of doing these types of things. The thing that stood out to me, Huss, is, look, I think the punishment is a clear one, right? I think $100,000 is a massive fine, and a second-round pick is a notable loss, right? I mean, could you imagine the market here if the Jets had lost a second-round pick? It would be insane, right? And I imagine it's the same way in all places, including there. But the thing that the thing that I found interesting afterwards, and I'm glad with the news coming out today that it's maintained that, is that it seemed, and it was, I guess my beef, I wouldn't call it a beef, but like I noticed that a lot of media members were coming out and just saying, well, oh yeah, like they'll just drop, like, upon appeal, they'll just drop the second round pick. And I just kept reading this from people who like report on this sport and like, whatever. And it just thought to myself, like, how ridiculous would that be if they made this like statement and then just took back or gave back the second round pick, like the meat of the thing. Like, no one cares about $100,000. Like, yeah, that's a notable thing. It's a notable price. You don't hear that price come out a whole lot, but John Tortorella can afford that and Vegas can afford that. What they can't probably afford is a pick. And so this belief that like it was just inevitable that like the Vegas would appeal and then that would be all good. Like, I don't know, like that kind of like rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. So I was happy to hear that that's staying in place, even just for optics, right? Like, I mean, they're going to have to hold on to that for a bit. And I'd like to think that those same reporters are critical if and when that does happen. I'd like to think it won't, or maybe the pick goes to a third or whatever, but you need to keep that part in play because that's really the part that's going to deter other teams from doing this ever again. Money, there's no amount of money that will deter a team from doing whatever they want, right? So, and then moving on to the Bruce Cassidy stuff, Huss, like, I feel like I'm alone in this. Perhaps I'm not, but like, I kind of believe when you're paying a guy this much money to be a coach and your contract goes to a certain time, you can do whatever you want. Like, I don't know why, like, I know Vegas, gets a reputation for some of the things they pull and whatever. They're still paying Bruce Cassidy millions of dollars to be on the bankroll. Like, they're living up to their end of the deal. And then people go, well, they fired him. Great. He's still getting paid millions of dollars. Like, and then to me, it makes all the sense in the world. Like, I'm not saying it's a cool move, it's a whatever, but I don't know what the uproar is, because to me, it's like, if an employer is going to pay you millions of dollars to do a job a year, they can dictate what you do or who you can talk to. Like, if someone wants to pay me, it's not about me, obviously, but if someone wants to pay me millions of dollars, I'll sit there and shut up and not coach and be told when I can talk to other teams.
What if there's someone else? What if you want to coach and not be sitting around doing nothing, and there's someone that's willing to pay more? Essentially, the scenario that was brought up, and this has happened with the player before, is to, and it sounds like the NHL is not going to allow this, but would request to terminate the contract. Like, yeah. I've been fired. These guys want to pay me and prevent me from coaching. I'm saying no. Like, don't pay me anymore. Yeah. Allow me to go.
This is the thing, Huss. You sign that at the beginning, and when you sign that contract at the beginning, both sides, you say you sign a 6-year deal for $5 million each. Both sides sign that deal thinking or believing that at the end of the 5 years, they're going to be high-fiving each other because what a great run it was for you and what the belief they all had it. The fact of the matter is that's what you sign up for. That's what you read on the dotted line. You want to put in a clause in your contract that if you get fired, you have the opportunity to leave, then get a better agent. But until this poor Cassidy for not getting the opportunity to interview, why would they let him go to the Oilers, right? Like one of their a West opponent. Like, why would you like a divisional opponent?
So they don't. Most teams would, because then they wouldn't have to pay the money.
Right, but Vegas doesn't care, right? That's the best part about Vegas. They'd rather just screw over one of their opponents and pay the money that the contract does than allowing him to go, and that's their right. And that's kind of where I stand. You can say, oh, this is BS, or they should be doing this. That's your own personal opinion. The fact of the matter is, these rules and regulations and actions were signed on the dotted line and agreed upon by two groups. If now,
if I'm
it
Bettman,
is what it is.
If I'm Bettman, I would definitely try to work with the teams and allow him to terminate the contract.
Well, and this wouldn't be the first time that they hear something that doesn't make the league look good and they sidebar them and they go, hey guys, let's figure this thing out. Maybe he takes less money. This, to your point, if it's an opportunity to take more money with a different team and get whatever, then maybe he gives some money back to the team, right? Maybe there's an agreement there where they don't pay him out all this, and if he wants to take a pay cut or end
that's what I'm
contract,
saying. He's just off the books, and he'll make that same money and maybe a bit more.
But until then, like, you're on the books.
From a league perspective, I mean, if I'm Gary Bettman, I would love nothing more than Bruce Cassidy to be coaching the Edmonton Oilers next year. I mean, it takes that rivalry to a whole nother level. Because you demand the teams in their division play each other, you're highly likely to get them playing
really
each
think
other.
That Gary Bettman, who is a lawyer, is really going to be like, oh, hey guys, like would love a really competitive series between the Vegas Golden Knights and Edmonton Oilers.
He's the commissioner of the NHL.
If you could just get past this contractual agreement that you both agreed to, then we can just move on here. Is that cool? Like, yeah, I think you do that. You facilitate that if you want it. Bruce Cassidy is going to get the job with the Oilers eventually. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of time.
That's what Iwanek said to me today on Lock Shop, and I'm like, well, why would you say that if they're holding firm right now? I mean, I think maybe they're just hoping that, okay, go talk to Toronto and maybe he gets another job
bothering
first.
Us. We're in the playoffs still. We got bigger news to worry about right now. We'll join you when we're eliminated, like you were in the first round. Until then, you can keep your coach who you went behind his back, and you can sit in this mess for a little bit longer. And if that isn't the Vegas way, Huss, I don't know what is.
Hammer, great stuff as always. Congratulations on completing the move, although I know there's still work left to be done. We will look forward to catching up with you very soon, my friend. And of course, a couple of weeks away from CFL 110 firing up again for season kickoff. Cannot wait.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Looking forward to doing it, and always love our weekly chats. Have a great one.
Take it easy. There it is. Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press. Well, as we've mentioned a couple times today, folks, it is baseball season in Winnipeg. Not the most beautiful day for the home opener, but we should have a great crowd down at the ballpark tonight for the Gold Eyes home opener. Still tickets available. Go to goldeyes.com/tickets to grab them for tonight and be part of the early attendees, because for the first 5,000 fans in the building tonight, we'll get a sweet Gold Eyes jersey. They're given out to the first 5,000 fans at tonight's game. 6:30 start. Gates open at 5:30. Come thirsty, come hungry, come ready to see the fish get her going with hopefully their first win of the season after a tough weekend in Milwaukee to begin the year. 6:30 tonight. Gold Eyes season is back. Blue Cross Park. We will see you there. goldeyes.com/tickets again to get signed up. Our friends at Royal Sports are ready. We'll see whether they're going to do a tent sale this weekend or next weekend. I'll confirm that for you tomorrow. Do not miss the Royal Sports tent sales in the summer. There's simply nothing like them. Thousands of pieces of merchandise, thousands of pairs of shoes, all at 50% off or more. But right now, we, like everyone waiting for the weather to turn, are getting ready to really get going on soccer season, baseball, softball, tennis, you name it. And Royal Sports is ready for all of your summer sports with the best selection in equipment and footwear for all of the aforementioned pastimes. Also got an amazing selection of bikes, including e-bikes there. And as we get ready to host the world for the World Cup, nowhere has more World Cup merch with countries from around the world and tons of Team Canada to get ready for kickoff. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Pop by and see them, and don't forget to follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. We will get to our horse picks tonight because Assiniboia Downs is back, but hopefully our weekends for the rest of the summer are better than the one we just experienced. And you're going to want to get out and experience our beautiful province. If you're planning your next adventure, start with Travel Manitoba. Whether you're searching for road trip inspiration, hidden gems, or the latest festivals and events, everything you need is waiting at travelmanitoba.com. Looking for ideas on the go? Follow along on social media at Travel Manitoba for real-time inspiration, local tips, and can't-miss experiences from across the province. Or if you want a personal touch, stop by the Visitor Information Center at the Forks in Winnipeg. All right, let's bring in Connor Hrabchak, who's been all over the place. Sea Bears home opener today, or on the weekend. Busy WST Sunday Live yesterday morning. Connor, what's going on? How are you?
Great, Huss. I'm doing great. Sea Bears home opener was an absolute blast. Looking forward to another home opener tonight. I've got last year's jersey giveaway. Looking forward to getting my red one this year. hopefully I'm one of the first 5,000 fans tonight. And was down at Bombers practice today, braving the elements to talk to Jackson Tuchinski, Mike O'Shea, and some of the other players down at Bombers practice. So that was fun. I was late to the party for training camp, but it was great to be down there today.
I'm glad you got down there today, and I brought this right off the bat. I was quite pleased when I heard that the Bombers had inked Jackson Tuchinski. He was an absolute stud at the University of Manitoba, and not only is he a big quarterback, 6'4", had an incredible run with the Bisons, the dude is a freak athlete. I mean, he was a contributor on the basketball team as well for a number of seasons. Had gone to Edmonton as a receiver in camp, signed technically as a receiver with Winnipeg. But this is a team that knows him very, very well and jumped at the opportunity to get him at the fold. What did he have to say today after signing with the Blue Bombers?
Yeah, he was very excited, and he said he was very blessed and honored to get this opportunity. He talked about how going back to the CFL Combine is when he was first asked by, some scouts and some coaches and all of that stuff to make the switch. And he talked about what that's like. Obviously you grow up playing quarterback. He played quarterback his whole life. Someone comes up to you at a combine and goes, "Hey, want to switch positions?" Like, that's a weird spot to be in for a football player, but he tried it out. He said he's feeling more and more comfortable. Obviously, he was with the Edmonton Elks, but got cut from their camp. He spoke a little bit about that as well. But he says he's feeling more confident. He feels like he's got his footwork down as a wide receiver. He talked about flag football as well, and how you can have two players on the field at the same time that could throw a forward pass, and how, they were putting in some wrinkles there for the flag football side of things with Team Canada. But as it pertains to the Bombers, he's super fired up to be home, be here. He's feeling more comfortable as a wide receiver. And he said the biggest hurdle for him now is kind of special team stuff. He's not used, as a quarterback, again, his whole life, he's not used to being out there for punt coverage or field goal coverage or whatever the case might be, but he's out there doing special team stuff too. So yeah, if you can be a point guard for the Bisons, quarterback for the Bisons, and then, hey, sign with the CFL team as a wide receiver, safe to say you're a pretty good athlete.
Speaking of good athletes, you get a chance to put your eyes on the big guy wearing 13. How did Elgersma look?
Yeah, so I've been hearing some of the glaze on our program, and I was like, all right, let me see this guy. Let me see this guy for myself, right? It's legit. He's legit, man. He's got an absolute rocket of an arm. And there was one throw today, and I don't want to, again, over-exaggerate one throw, but it was in the team period where they're playing, full offense versus defense. And I think it was Kevin Clercius was kind of in the slot. He was running this deep corner, kind of running to the pylon. The Bombers were kind of at midfield, their offense. Elgersma took the snap, rolled to his left, and just with the flick of a wrist, threw it about 40, 50 yards in the air, right in the bucket. Like, the arm strength is effortless, is a way that I describe it. And again, he's 6'5", 200 whatever pounds. He's got a rocket of an arm. He certainly has all the tools. And when you're just watching him in drills, just throw passes or roll to his right and throw to the corner or do whatever, the statement that he can make any throw on the football field becomes very evident, because he absolutely can. Whether he's rolling left, rolling right, he has the arm to make any of those throws. Obviously, still a young player, still very raw. He's working through these practice reps, and those will be great for him, facing blitzes, all of those things. But he's already played the Canadian game. He doesn't need to adjust to all of that. And when he's making throws like the one I saw today, where he's rolling to his left and it's just kind of a flick of the wrist, 50 yards in the air, right in the bucket, you can see why the Bombers are high on him. His potential's high, and why there's a lot of excitement for this guy to play.
Cannot
eventually.
wait for June 11th in that home opener and getting things going. But
I do just want to shout out one more guy who stood out to me in a big way from camp today. Tommy Neild, Canadian receiver, who came over from the Riders last year. He put together a mini series today on "You Got Mossed" from Randy Moss. He had some great catches today. There was one, Claris took a deep shot and he kind of had to work back to the ball and completely mossed the DB. It was a great catch. And then there was a second one that was kind of a curl, almost like an out route, and a DB undercut it, but he just went over top of the DB. I think it was Dietrich Nichols, and completely mossed him too. So Tommy Neild standing out to me as well. Just my first viewing of him.
Hey, listen, if you're getting lauded for mossing guys at the wide receiver position,
it's a good thing.
You're doing something. Doing something right. I imagine a lot of the newcomers are probably going like, "What the hell is going on here, guys?" I know you said it was cold, but like, not to keep bitching about the weather, but And quite the eye opener for these guys that have come here. And don't worry, it's gonna get warmer at some point. But hey,
Well, yeah,
they're getting
Jackson,
playoff
too.
ready in training camp.
Yeah, I was talking to Jackson as well, and we were talking about Edmonton, and we were like, "Well, what's the weather out there?" He's like, "It's gorgeous out there. It's beautiful." I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me, really?" Yeah, he's bragging about how nice the weather was. But yeah, I'm looking at the 7 to 10 day forecast, and hopefully there's warmer days ahead. It looks that way, but would have been nice to have maybe a 20-degree night tonight for this Gold Eyes home opener.
Now, unfortunately, our Seabears conversation has to start with them blowing an 8-point lead with just over 4 minutes left today against Scarborough in an early game and losing their first game of the season. But pretty nice start on the home court on Saturday night.
Yeah, great crowd too. I love going to these Seabears games. It's always a fun atmosphere, whether the team wins or loses. And when they win and it's target time and they score the game winner, it's always a great crowd pop. It's awesome. And the one thing that stood out to me is, like, in years past, especially Teddy Allen's first year with the Seabears, he needed to be the guy. Like, he won MVP that year. He had the gaudy numbers because, you know, he had the ball every possession, and that was kind of the way the Seabears offense was going to operate. That game Saturday night, what stood out to me is how many different players were contributing, especially offensively. Teddy Allen had, 20-ish points. Tillman, the center, had 20-ish points. There were just multiple players contributing and above 15 points. And you have guys like Mason Cross coming off the bench, who in the season opener on the road scored the game-winning free throw, but in the game on Saturday, maybe didn't play as much, but still had an impact defensively, hit a 3-pointer in the fourth quarter as well. So it feels like this is a deeper team than we've seen in years past. And I know they lost today. Of course, today, their center, Jeremiah Tillman, who was awesome in that game on Saturday night, didn't play for the Seabears, so they'll look to get him back. I'm not sure what the word is on that. But yeah, these Seabears games, if you haven't been to one, I highly recommend. The atmosphere is incredible. They do a great job of explaining how the target time works if you're not aware of it. And obviously, when the Seabears win it like that, the crowd has a lot to cheer for. And then the crowd pop when they win it is awesome, of course.
All right, listen, let me fire this out to the chat right now before I give it to you. And as we've, dug more into the draft prospects for the upcoming draft in Buffalo, knowing the Jets pick 8, why not question of the day for not Autocorp, but Waverly and McGillivray? Is there a player, maybe one that we've mentioned already today on the show, but is there a player that you were really hoping will be there at 8 for the Jets within reason? It's not going to be McKenna or Stenberg. And who would you like to pull the trigger on? Let us know in the chat for the why not question of the day. Connor, the one guy, especially as the World Championships get going, that we've got an opportunity to see playing against men in this role is the Swede Bjork. And I said to Mike earlier, I think the conversation is maybe now less, okay, if you've got one of the defensemen and the 2 centers on, do you think about taking the small guy to, will this guy be picked before the Jets are on the clock at number 8?
That is becoming the question, because I said this on Sunday Live. We watched that Canada-Sweden game. I'm no scout. I'm no expert. I noticed Vigio Bjork in a big way against NHL players. Scouts and GMs and the guys actually making the decisions, picks 1 through 7, notice that as well, right? Like, I'm just some guy turning on the TV. People who actually do this for a living saw Vigio Bjork playing well. So that becomes a question, because he's projected to be in that range for the Winnipeg Jets. If I'm answering your question, it is Bjork. I love his 200-foot game. I love the fact that he's being trusted by every coaching staff he's ever played for, but particularly this Sweden coaching staff, to not only play big minutes, but he's the guy you throw out for an offensive zone draw when the other team ices the puck. He's also the guy that when your team is kind of in a rut, maybe the last 5 minutes, Crosby and Celebrini are doing their thing and there's a defensive zone draw, he's the guy you throw out there and you're trusting him to win the faceoff in the defensive zone too. Like, there's just so much trust there from the coaching staff to Vigio Bjork. And then, of course, he's actually setting up chances, and he scored a goal in his very next game of the tournament after the Canada one. So he's been very impressive to me. As for the Winnipeg Jets spot at 8, I was kind of spelling things out on Sunday Live, Huss. And when you look at the board, I know we were all disappointed the Jets didn't win the lottery. Still would have been nice. I'm not saying that they're fine that they didn't win it, but sliding down a spot, obviously a tough look. But you look at the board and how the consensus is kind of going to shake out. You've got McKenna, Stenberg, Reed, and Malhotra. Those players are for sure going to go. the top 2 players in the class, and then Reed, top defenseman, Malhotra, top center. Those guys are locks to go before 8 for sure. Carroll's, Verhoff, likely to go, not locks to go. They're not in the McKenna tier, but they're probably not going to be there for the Winnipeg Jets. And then you've got guys like Bjork, Smits, Daxon Rudolph, Tynan Lawrence. That next group, like 2 of those players that I just mentioned are going to be on the board. One of Smits or Bjork is going to be on the board, or Carroll's or Verhoff's going to slide. Like, just the math kind of works out that the Winnipeg Jets are going to have one of these prospects that's viewed as a strong prospect available to them at 8. And then there's maybe a tier break after them, maybe a pick 9 or 10, but the Jets are firmly in kind of that second tier of prospects at pick number 8. So I'm okay with the spot they're in, but to answer your question, Bjork, if he's there, he's my guy.
You know who worries me about Bjork is Seattle.
They've taken so many forwards, though, the last couple of years with their prospects. Like, maybe they stick to the run on defensemen, or they just keep taking forwards until one of them hits.
I mean, listen, they need that center. I mean, every team, especially teams like Seattle that, have been kind of picking like wingers, and Shane Wright has been, they thought they were getting a steal with him falling to 4. There's a reason why that he did. I'm really interested to see how that shakes out. And I'm sort of with you. Like, I don't have a lot of hope that Carroll's is going to be on the board.
If he's there, you run to the podium and take him.
Yeah.
Because not only is he an absolute dog, but he's also Manitoban. So I think that's a pretty easy
and by the way,
pick.
he just announced that he is making the move to UND next year.
Yes.
And he'll be playing just up the road, which would be a perfect scenario for he, his family, and the team. But again, that's predicated on having the ability to draft them, which I think is probably unlikely. Connor, great stuff. We'll catch up with you later on this week, and hopefully see you down at the ballpark tonight.
Yeah, I'll see you down wearing one of those sharp red jerseys. And if you're looking for me, just look for people that have, chicken fingers and fries with honey dill sauce. First game of the year, gotta lock it in. What are you going for tonight?
Listen, I am quite excited to be one of the first consumers of the new footlong hot dog at the game. That's new for this year. Footlong dog. You can get it at Goldie's Grill. But if you want it, and this is, I think, the way that I'm going to do it, Goldie's Grill at the far end of right field, you can get the footlong dog done up with like the bacon and the onions and all that stuff the way the Goldie dog has been. So I think I'm going to come right out of the gate with hot dogs, the ultimate baseball accompaniment. But I do like the barbecue there. I like the pierogi hut. The tacos are good from Taco Time.
You can't go wrong.
Noodle bar.
You can't go wrong.
No, listen, just come hungry is basically what we say. So yeah, 6:30 tonight. You got a big crew going.
No,
with?
I'm going with Jacob Stoller, former WST Sunday Live. Yes, so
nice.
you can find Jacob and I in line at Goldie's Grill. But I'm looking forward to it.
I love it. Yeah, no bets on McDonald's breakfast today. It's going to be on it's going to be on some chicken fingers from the
I said to Jacob, there's a free jersey, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm in. It's tough to get him out of the house, but you offer him there's free jerseys available. He's in."
Speaking of chicken, check out. There's a new spot this year, and I think they're doing like the Korean fried chicken. So that I was hitting Andrew with all the important questions going into this season. Okay, tell me about the concessions. What do we got? So that is what it is. Craft Beer Corner, I'm sure will be busy tonight. And again, don't forget, we should probably maybe next week or so go on sale with our tickets. But June 30th is going to be our Goldeye game. It's going to be a real fun. It's a Tuesday night. Canada Day is the next day. I think a lot of people will be taking Thursday and Friday off, so it'll be a heck of a way to start off the extra long weekend. And hopefully that weekend will be a heck of a lot better than the one that we just enjoyed. Connor, great stuff. We'll talk to you soon, buddy. Thanks again.
Yeah, see you tonight at Goldie's Grill, Huss.
You bet. You'll have lots of Connor next week. He'll be in to host with Michael Remis as I'm away at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. And thank God, as much as I've bitched about the weather, it is looking a lot better for next week here in southern Manitoba. Not too far away is Aikens Lake up in the Bassett area. If you want to be on the water for a fly-in fishing experience in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens is the spot with incredible world-class fishing and even more world-class hospitality from the Turenne family and the Aikens Lake team. Go to aikenslake.com for more information on all of their options for the 2026 fishing season, and get in touch with Pitt and Julie on socials or there for the to find availability for the rest of 2026. Man, PGA Championship we haven't mentioned today. Our Breezy Bend golf report, Aaron Rai, 2 gloves, iron covers, is your PGA champion. And that tournament was absolutely phenomenal on so many levels. The most stacked leaderboard we've probably ever seen going into Sunday. And John Rahm played really well. Ludwig Goldberg was there. Bunch of the top stars. And it was Aaron Rai who just simply went out and took it. The 68-footer on 17 was magic, and that really iced it for him. But a really great backstory as well, why he wears the 2 gloves and what's up with the iron covers that a lot of golf hardos were giving him a hard time on. Came from modest means. It was something that reminded him, I think, about his humble beginnings. And the kid grew up playing in a lot of cold weather in England, felt comfortable with the 2 gloves, and just kept going Teddy Bridgewater throughout his career. So congratulations to Rai. And of course, if you're thinking about getting in and maybe being the next Aaron Rai or swinging it at one of the best courses in town, check out breezybend.ca. Breezybend.ca for more information on membership at Breezy. And you can also give our pal Corey Johnson a call, 895-7205, for more information on the upcoming season and membership at beautiful Breezy Bend. All right, we got to get to horse picks. We got to get to Coolbet lines. First up, though, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery. You'll find it tonight at the ballpark. Of course, that's Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's go to Coolbet lines, and then we will dive into what's cooking tonight at the track. It is Cinnaboya Downs as they're back to the post at 7:30 p.m. Shout out to everyone, and I see K. Berg, Big Money Kev in the chat. Kev, I told all you guys you should go in those pick'em contests for the PGA Championship. Everyone had a chance to take me down. Nobody succeeded. Let me bury Horowitz myself for winning the pool that was put on by the PME, the Mayo crew. And I'll shout out K. Berg, Big Money Kev, for a very tight second place finish. Speaking of Coolbet, I retweeted this earlier today. If you are playing at Coolbet, make sure you go to the promotions tab and put in an opt-in and submit on the Ultimate Soccer Tour trip. Vancouver, hotel, awesome tickets, Canada in the World Cup. 2 weeks left on that promo and contest before the raffle starts. With every $25 bet that you make, you'll get a spot for the in the raffle, and hopefully they'll be calling your name and saying, "Pack it up, you're going to Vancouver for the World Cup." That's all over at Coolbet. No hockey tonight. We do have the start of the Cavs-Knicks series. Knicks -6.5 tonight. I love the Knicks in this series. Cavs went into Detroit and blew out the Pistons in Game 7. It's an older team. I think the Knicks win this one in 5 or 6. I definitely think they get off to a great start tonight, and I will be laying the points on the New York Knicks. As far as the NHL playoffs go, the series are set for the conference finals. Carolina and Montreal will get going on Thursday night. The Canes -270, Montreal +215. I think Montreal is very live in this series. There's a lot of weird things happening right now with this team, and we've seen it before. They just keep coming. And listen, they're a real fun team. Although Carolina should win this series, but I don't know. I'm certainly not laying minus 270 on the Carolina Hurricanes. As far as Colorado and Vegas, Colorado, a similar favorite, minus 263 for the Avalanche. Golden Knights plus 210. The odds and the books definitely expecting a Colorado-Carolina matchup in the finals. We've lifted Pat's suspension. He'll be on tomorrow. We'll dive into the weekend upcoming in golf. World Championships, though, is up right now. Couple games going on today. Tomorrow, Canada's playing Norway. They're 4.5 goal favorites. Now, they have not been blowing teams out. Tomorrow might be the day to get on them, to just have a bit of an explosion, get the guys going. Of course, Robert Thomas, a little bit of a Central Division line. Robert Thomas is centering Mark Scheifele and Gabriel Velarde right now on the lines for Canada at the World Championships. But all of those games are up right now. And Canada is even money to win the tournament. Plus 100 if you think they'll win the championship. Finland plus 395, Switzerland plus 550, Swedes 13-1, Czechs and USA 15-1. It's all waiting for you over at Coolbet. Use the promo code WST if you haven't played there before for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. All right, Remo, let's get back to the track. I had a nice starting week, just sort of kept my head above water, and now we kind of really move into the season and try and stay in the black.
I did not get off to a good start, Huss. I'm blaming the cold weather here. It's very unpredictable. These horses, all the stats are for warm weather. It's like minus temperature here, so might have to adjust my projection system here heading into tonight's live racing.
All right, well, let's get into our picks. I'm on race 1, 4, 5, and 6.
Okay, I have to add one more in. If you want to go first,
all right,
go right ahead. I got to do one more. Let me just bring up the races.
Let's start race number 1. I'm going $5 on number 1. She's so Croatian to win. It's the number 2 program selection, but it seems to be a heavy favorite in the AI Smart Picks. They're giving it 51% as opposed to 21.6% for the program selection. Coming over from Woodbine, where it last raced in December. So we'll take a little bit of a swing on race number 1 with number 1. Race number 4, we're going to go with another win bet. This one seems to be a pretty heavy favorite, there's 2 races. But anyways, we're going Finding Ways, number 5, $5 to win. Race number 5. Now, this seems to be a pretty... I was thinking about doing an exactor box for this one, but looking at the favorite, My Liam, who's 6-5, knowing that this horse just raced at Oaklawn Park on the 1st of May, I really like the scenario for this one. So I'm just going to do a straight $4 exacta, not a box. So 5 to be first, 2 Truly Warrior to be second. So 5-2 exacta on that last one. And race number 6, we're going with the triactor box. The top 2 horses, at least from the smart picks, I guess, 1-2, Bougie Britches, Lisa Connects, and then the long shot, number 7, The Right Way. So a 1-2-7 triactor box in race number 6. That finishes my 20 for today. Remo, what do you got?
All right, I've got a bit different picks from you here, Huss, as I bring them up. What's going on here? Hold on.
Tell me.
Sorry, I'm trying to bring in the stuff. My computer's been all wonky. Today, I'm on race 2, horse 1 to win. That is Mr. Splash. And then on race, there we go. And then on race 3, I'm on horse 5 to win. I'm just trying to keep it simple here, Huss. It really
Symbol Court.
I think I needed a big favorite to feel good about, because I haven't hit a winner this year. That is the program selection. AI Smart Pick 7. I'm not going to pay big money there, but I need one to feel good. And 4, I've got an exacta box. 1-5, Chicago's Gray and Finding Ways. Those are the program selections. And taking a shot here on race 6. Not a huge shot, but I've tapped the parlay. That is second for the program selection. So I think that was the one you didn't have.
Yeah, I didn't have. I went 1-2-7.
Okay.
It's a bit of a wide open one. And as I said, after 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have a better idea. We'll remember where some of the top players or the top horses are and who's looked good early on in the season. I did notice that one of our all-time favorites is back this year.
Who?
Del Vecchio.
Really?
And Del Vecchio is in race number 2, a 4-5 favorite. Like the shortest number on the board today is Del Vecchio. I figured at that number, we'll see if they come out blazing with a win to start the year. And if that's the case, you'll be hearing a lot of Del Vecchio in the picks.
Oh, I took Mr. Splash here at 5 to 1. So I don't know. Del Vecchio, I don't know if Del Vecchio had a great year. Did they last year?
No, I kind of thought that maybe it was coming back a little bit.
Yeah,
well, they still had some.
It had some good finishes near the end. Had a first and a second. There you go. A bunch of thirds. Okay, so a lot of Assiniboia Downs. We've been doing this for so long. Us a lot of the horses, were just rookies when we started out, but now we're earning a veteran status.
You bet. 7:30 is post time tonight at Assiniboia Downs, and again, give them a phone call. And make an appointment at some point for your to get in the dining room. And speaking of the dining room, if you haven't already, make sure to go to winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. Enter your name if you're able to join us on June 3rd at Assiniboia Downs. Tomorrow, once we're done the picks, we will do our horse race, where we'll be picking 10 names of people that are entered. Everyone will get a horse. And the winner of the horse race will join Cowboy. We'll bring a guest and join the WST team on June 3rd for what should be a real fun night of racing. Remo, a couple things to get to, but I'm hearing that what the Coaches Association just put out a statement on Bruce Cassidy. What's the latest?
Yeah, breaking news. This came out at 3 o'clock. Statement from the Coaches Association. They've been closely monitoring the situation involving Bruce Cassidy. While they respect the league's rules and processes, and this is what they're saying, it is our position that coaches who remain under contract but are no longer working for their club should not be prevented from pursuing other employment opportunities. It would be unprecedented at the head coaching level should multiple teams be denied permission to speak with Coach Cassidy. The situation is still unfolding, but our priority is to protect the interests of our members in this type of circumstance. So I know Jeff talked about, you signed the contract, the Coaches Association stepping in and saying, this is something that's never been done. We got to step in here, and we're keeping an eye on the situation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not surprised they're feeling this way. I'm not surprised they're going public with this after the reports today. And we'll see where this all shakes out. How long the Edmonton Oilers can stick around waiting to see whether they're going to play. I just hope that he goes to Edmonton, just for how juicy that's going to be between those two teams moving forward. And as I said, I mean, they're all in the West. I mean, they're rivals of the Jets at some point, if you want to get to the Cup final. But I think for the Oilers, they almost owe it to McDavid and to Draisaitl to get the best guy they possibly can for this final run with those guys. Did you actually tune in live for the Ronda Rousey Gino Carano fight?
Yeah, I watched the last two. I watched Nate Diaz, Mike Perry, which was a bloody affair.
He's a bleeder, man. He is a bleeder.
It was crazy how bloody it was, and I bought into the hype. I was fired up for Rousey and Gina Carano. I remember watching Gina Carano in was Strike Force, and this card was very reminiscent of Strike Force, the MVP MMA card on Netflix with a lot of mismatches. Had some big names, but they just fed them tomato cans. Like Nagano got paid reported 1.5 mil for his big knockouts. So there were some big finishes, but not really competitive fights. And yeah, the finish in Rousey and Carano was at 17 seconds. Not even the fastest fight in Ronda Rousey's career, her third fastest, which Aaron Bronstetter was on top of. And he put out a video telling everyone who says, oh, this was a fixed fight. And no, it was just a terrible mismatch where you have someone who hadn't fought in 17 years and Gina Carano, who's not exactly known.
She apparently
as a
lost
grappler.
100 pounds.
Yeah, she said she lost 100 pounds to get ready. Looked great, but it did feel like it was just for show, and they just cashed so much money.
Yeah,
from that
big tickets, and I guess it's Netflix, right? So you don't have to pay to get it. People already have it. I don't know why.
There was no hockey on. It was like the only thing on. I think the viewership of this stuff is huge. I'm a sucker for all these Jake Paul promoted fights. I don't know why I watch them, and I'm texting people, hey, you want to come over and watch this?
Well, okay, if you're a sucker for those, then make plans for this weekend. You know who's fighting in another one of these kind of weird...
Okay.
It's like Aiden Ross and some guy that's promoting it. Johnny Manziel fighting Bob Menery. Like two
What's it on?
absolute disasters going. I don't know. Aiden Ross and some other guy are promoting some...
I saw this.
Some event. And I saw Johnny saying that he was training and he was basically walking to the beach. He's not training. And that reminded me of Nate Diaz from this last event. If anyone saw the public workout that they had before, like Rhonda came and did some things, Gina did. Well, Nate Diaz went into the ring for the public workout, proceeded to pull out a massive joint and just smoked it in this area. And instead of working out, he puffed on a massive J and then did an interview, stoned out of his mind, and left. And maybe that should have been all we needed to see to go hard on Mike Perry futures for that fight. But I'll say this about Diaz. He's a psycho, but there's never a dull moment when he's fighting. Although I don't know how many more he has in him after getting absolutely dusted like he did. Hey, one more thing on the way, and I've noticed it from the notes. I've not seen this. You have a list. RotoWire listed the most hated team by U.S. state.
Okay.
And the Jets show up on 4?
Okay, so they put out this map of USA, most hated team by state, but I read into more. First of all, I thought it was interesting. I read into more the methodology that they came up with this, and I get the impression that it was gut feel. So I don't know how scientific it is. However, it is something that gets engagement and is fun.
Oh, those maps always do.
This map is, and it makes you think like, okay, who would the Jets' most hated team? Like Les did the video for us on the street party last year. Who's the Jets' biggest rival? And she got you asked 20 people. There's not 20 answers, only 32 teams, but multiple answers. So here's this map where they put most hated teams by state.
Okay, good.
Weighted.
Okay.
So a state-by-state look at the team each region's dominant fan base loves to loathe, weighted by divisional rivalries, recent playoff history, so the last 5 years, original six tradition, and universal villain narrative. So they had Vegas as the most hated by basically everyone in the West. I don't know how they came up with this. And they've got, I think it makes sense though. They have Colorado and Texas. I think that makes sense. They've played in the playoffs.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And I was thinking, okay, what would it be? I said, if the Jets are on 4 states, I said, I hope it's Minnesota. Well,
They have
got Minnesota
yeah.
there.
And they don't have North Dakota for the Jets. They have North Dakota hating Colorado because I think a lot of North Dakota like the Jets.
Yeah, for sure. And then what we got? South Dakota, and what is that? Iowa,
and they put Georgia in for courtesy for
maybe
obvious
that's
reasons.
because they left.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they
That
put
sounds
like
right.
Utah for Arizona.
I thought we might get Missouri after what happened with 1.6 seconds last year. If I
Where
was
is Missouri
guessing
here?
these states, I would have guessed Missouri.
They put Chicago.
Yeah,
That's
it's the
fair.
Blackhawks, and that's St. Louis-Chicago rivalry. All right. Well, anyways, you can check that out online. It's always fun to talk about those bets.
They put Dallas for Tennessee. Makes sense.
Yep, yeah, for sure. Nashville's biggest rivals. And then
I think they just came up with this on their
Dallas
own,
for
but-
the Avs too.
Yeah, they put Colorado for Dallas. Yeah,
And then what? Florida is the Leafs?
Florida's the Leafs.
Because if you're Lightning, it's Panthers. If you're Panthers, it's Lightning. But they can all come together and hate the Leafs, much like Canada outside of the province of Ontario.
Yeah.
All right, we got to get this pod up. Gold Eyes tonight. Hopefully, we'll see some of you there. 6:30 start. Get there early. Grab those jerseys, and bundle up. It's not particularly warm out. Hopefully, this will be the coldest game of the year, and we move forward. Thanks to Mike McIntyre, Jeff Hamilton, Connor Hrabchak for jumping on the show today. Everyone in chat, people were fired up today. Huge thanks to all of our sponsors. We will do this again tomorrow, live at 1 o'clock, hopefully with no technical difficulties to start off the show. Have a great night tonight. Enjoy the game. Go Fish. And we'll see you tomorrow to get ready for game one between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Colorado Avalanche. Thanks for hanging out with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk, everyone.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.